Elden Ring is popping off. Sid Meier gives his take on game monetization, and Gabe Newell shares his thoughts on NFTs and crypto. All of this and more on this week's episode of the Campfire Gaming Podcast. Stick around. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Campfire Gaming Podcast. My name is Rich, and I will be your host for this week's episode. With me, as always, I have the one and the only Matt. How's it going, Matt?
Good. How you doing?
Doing great. Before we get into all the good stuff that we have this week, we are going to ask that you go to our website, campfiregamingpodcast.com, and you join our Discord. We have a Discord. We want you on it because we want to play games with you and talk to you about all sorts of cool gaming stuff. While you're there, for shizzle. While you are there, be sure to follow our Twitter at CampGamePod, and of course, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share this with your friends, your grandparents, your regular parents, whatever kind of parents you have. Be sure to share with them as well.
Your enemies, your nemesis,
and your enemies. Yeah, we don't discriminate.
Your rivals, coworkers. Doesn't
exactly.
matter.
Yes. We just want you to share the podcast if you really like us. Or, if you also like us, be sure to leave a comment. We like comments as well. We'd love to hear your feedback and know what you guys think. All right. So let's kick it off. Let's just dive right into the good stuff. Elden Ring is going absolutely insane. So last week, we had talked about how reviews of Elden Ring could be maybe misleading, or people might be like diehard fans and reviewing this game from a kind of like a rose tinted glasses sort of a view. Well, it turns out that's not really the case, because this game is going absolutely bonkers in sales.
Yep.
Yeah. So Elden Ring is the biggest launch in the UK outside of COD and FIFA since Red Dead Redemption 2, and that was a very, very big launch.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I've seen or hearing about some of these numbers and how much this is selling. It looks fantastic. Again, as I mentioned the other week, I'm not a big Souls person, so I probably won't pick it up, but sales are popping off.
I'm not a big Souls, to be honest, I'm not a big Souls person either. Actually, funny enough, Matt, you have actually played more Dark Souls-like games than I have. I have never once touched like Bloodborne or Dark Souls or anything like that. I don't know why. I've just never really gotten into it, but they all look really fun.
Yeah.
But honestly, I'm kind of leaning towards picking this up. I kind of want to give this a try. I've been watching streams of it. I've been watching some YouTube reviews on it, and people are absolutely loving it. My Steam friends list, my God, the last week, it's just been, I don't think there's been a time when at least 9 or 10 people haven't been playing Elden Ring on my Steam friends list. Is it you about the same?
Yeah, I'm playing a lot of Lonely Games of Hell Let Loose and seeing all my friends in Elden Ring.
Right. Maybe this is one of those cases where it's like, if you can't beat them,
join them.
I don't know. Join them.
If you end up picking it up, we talked about this last week. If you end up picking it up and you like it, that might push me to do it. Sorry, Mike, if you're listening to this episode, that
honestly
could be Rich that gets me into Dark Souls. But
honestly, I'm pretty sure I think I'm going to pick it up.
You'll have to. Obviously, we'll talk about your feelings and your opinions on it. So, but yeah, if it's positive and you like it, maybe I'll finally get around to picking it up. So
yeah,
we'll see.
But that's not the only thing going on. This game is selling so well, and one of the reasons we kind of wanted to talk about this today is that there's actually other developers that are kind of, I don't know if it's like a salty thing or if it's like a, jealousy can be an ugly color, but because this is outselling many, many games, 2.5 times the sales of Horizon Forbidden West in the UK.
Yeah.
It's just going absolutely nuts with how much this game is selling, and developers are kind of like throwing shade at the game.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of why I wanted to talk about this, is that I don't know how much so I linked you the there's a Bellular video that just came out not too long ago. I think it was like either yesterday or the day before, as of this recording. And he and Matt basically were talking back and forth about, game design and talking about the differences between something like an Ubisoft open world game versus Elden Ring. And essentially, I find myself agreeing with Bellular that like there's a lot of developers that seem like they're kind of in this particular bubble
Mhm.
that they just don't get what the people who use their games or who play their games want.
Yeah.
Or maybe yeah, like maybe they're in the minority of how they want their like what they have fun with, and they don't get why other people don't like that sort of a thing.
Well, I mean, yeah, I watched that Bellular video, and kind of for kind of quick note here, when you said he talked to Matt, it's not me. It's
Yeah,
actually
not
Bellular's
not not
co-host.
you, Matt. Yeah.
But if
Yep.
Bellular or Matt, you're
Bellular's
listening to this, we'd love
Bellular's
Rich and I
Matt,
would, yeah, we'd love to be on your show sometime
or
if
vice
you listen.
versa,
Yeah, or
or
vice
vice
versa.
versa.
But yeah, no, I watched that video with him and just kind of, I mean, the first thing is like I'm not as familiar with the From Software games. They're the developers of Elden Ring and Dark Souls and so on.
Mhm.
Um, but like they generally make their games for a specific crowd. This seems to be a little bit more um the little bit I know of it, designed a little bit more to kind of bring in new people as well, not just the old school Souls fans. Um, but just listening to kind of, especially Matt on the show was the one that really talked about playing this a lot. But listening to him and describe certain things, it to me it just sounds kind of like how From Software develops their games,
Mhm.
and how they envisioned and wanted you to play their open world game.
Right.
And kind of seeing the tweets, which by the way I think I don't know if the tweets are protected, but I tried going to this one developer's Twitter page and it was,
Yeah,
protected or
they're
whatever, private.
yep, they're private.
It's
I'm pretty sure that
they
after
got
after all these articles that they're getting some like mad amounts of backlash from the
most
wider
likely.
gaming community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll throw out this note too. If you're one of those assholes that goes there and is mean, I mean, go ahead and share your opinion, but don't be an asshole. Don't be a dick. Definitely
Yeah.
don't threaten people's lives or some stupid shit like that. So, but
Right.
anyways, reading through some of the stuff that these developers talked about, it's just like, to me, what they're saying they don't like about the game is just the opposite of what they do in their game, which isn't. It's like that doesn't make what From Software and Elden Ring does bad. Um, if if Ubisoft and EA's and stuff want to design their games in these weird ways where they're just constantly putting a piece of candy and a million graphics on the screen to help you, the player, get from A to B, then that's their design decision. But to knock something like Elden Ring for again, going from what Matt in Bellular's video described, is it sounds like a much more exploration heavy, kind of like you're not having your handheld, which again,
Right.
that sounds like a From Software game,
Right.
not like a Ubisoft game where there's a million points on the maps and a bunch of UI directing you every which
Right.
way, right?
Right.
So like for them to kind of shit on this, Elden Ring for some of these decisions, like you guys are like makes no sense. It's the game was made this way on purpose, just like you guys put a million things in to hold players' hands in your games. It's fine. It's just the way you guys make your games. Neither
Right.
way is right, but kind of having something like Elden Ring with a fresh vision or fresh approach, I think is why this game is popping off.
Right.
People want
And
something new and different.
right, and like what you were saying is that, this isn't exactly the way that they sort of approach a lot of their designs. It's not necessarily new, right? Like
Hmm.
it just seems like their formula, even when applied to a much wider open world, works just as well as their games just as well as Dark Souls or Bloodborne.
Yep.
Um, and like maybe it's kind of like, yeah, maybe it's kind of a salty thing. Like let's, going I'll go into some of these tweets here.
There you go. Yeah.
Um, so it's kind of a little bit of a tweet chain. Um, I don't remember where these developers were from. I think Ubisoft.
I think it was a
It's
couple
like
of them. I should have wrote it
Ubisoft
down. I
and
think,
Guerrilla Games
yeah.
and
Well, that was the thing. I think one moved from like EA to Ubisoft or vice versa. I forget. I saw that might have been in the Bellular video, and I might not have wrote that
yeah,
down.
I won't call them out by name.
Yeah.
That's not really necessary. The content speaks for itself. But anyway, so the first one kind of basically says, quote, the fact that Elden Ring scored a 97 Metacritic is proof that reviewers don't give a flaming poop about game UX. My life is a lie. He's a UX designer.
Yeah.
Um, a follow up from that was nor PC graphics, stability, and performance, apparently. And then the follow up from that was nor quest design, really. And then this guy, the original poster of this kind of follows up with just saying, like, Elden Ring's UX is so bad that I can only imagine From Software's devs smoking at their desk and using CRT monitors.
Can
Man,
we
that's
call
like,
out who was it in your Bellular bit? Was it Bellular or Matt that was like, man, if this is what we get from them smoking and at their desk
and
and at
CRT monitors, they
we
should
need more
start
devs doing
smoking and
that.
getting CRT monitors. Yeah, I think that was I think that was Bellular that mentioned that. Which, yeah, I mean, like, if you haven't watched any of Bellular's videos before and you're listening to this podcast, go give him a subscribe. He's amazing. He
Mm-hmm.
does really, really good news coverage and good deep dives into a lot of stuff happening in the games industry. So
Yep.
definitely want to send him our support. Um, so yeah, one of the things I was just so surprised at is just why? Like, why would they open themselves up for this? Like, yeah, okay, fine, be critical. Like, that makes sense. But I mean, they really haven't given a reason as to why a lot of this stuff is bad. Like, okay, maybe PC graphics stability and performance, but maybe like the graphics part of it, I don't really know because I'm sure there's a grillion people who are playing this on consoles, so that doesn't really
Yep.
matter. Stability and performance, yeah, I did hear there were some stability issues and maybe a little bit of performance issues, but I don't think it's, from the sounds of things, it doesn't sound like it's so bad that it's worth calling out on Twitter from another developer. This really just seems like, holy crap, this game did super super well. Why do our games not do this well, and why aren't
Yeah.
our games this revered? But they call out reviewers in particular, but it's not even just reviewers. I mean, you go to I could even just pull it up right now. Like, let's go take a peek
Well, I
at.
think the crazy thing with all the scores, the aggregate scores, is this is one of the few times where it seems like the critics and the players actually agree. They're like, this is
Yeah,
a great game, right? Which is usually it's kind of one way or the other. Um, and again, I find just them calling these things out is again, with my little knowledge of playing From Software games, is like they know very little about From Software games, so to call some of this stuff out is kind of insane. um and it's just, yeah, it screams just kind of jealous, that,
right.
you know darn, a game that isn't just copy pasted and a new paint job thrown on it. It's getting a 97. I wonder why our game, which was copy and pasted each year, isn't doing as well.
Right, which, I
um
mean, like, even their formula is not really that original. Like, there's nothing really creative about the stuff that they've added. I mean, I did think
no.
that the article that we pulled a lot of this information from had that image from Reddit that had all, like, that blasted UI with all the stuff on it and
Yeah.
everything. And the only thing I really think about, like, I know people are giving a lot of shit to Ubisoft for doing something like this, but this is something that's been going all the way back since World of Warcraft. Like, World of Warcraft did a lot of this stuff already. You
Hmm.
have like the mini map and um
The
you got
waypoints and the
the
markers.
hot bar, and I mean, like, maybe not so much the waypoints unless you had like a mod or something like that, but I mean, as WoW progressed, that's kind of what it ended up evolving into. But yeah.
Points of interest on the map. I do
Yeah.
want to take a minute. I haven't played the Horizon New Horizon game, so I can't speak on how those quests are designed. But um, I mean, for them to kind of, what again, lack of knowledge because I haven't played either of these games, Elden Ring or the new Horizon game. But like, you see it with design in a lot of open world games anymore, where it's just, and I'm not saying this is necessarily bad, but it sounds like they're shitting on Elden Ring for not doing it this way. But like, a lot of quests are designed where they just hold your hand. They tell you where to go, what you need, blah blah blah. Where it sounds like Elden Ring is like, again, the way Matt described it in that video was like, he got stuff and he didn't even know, like, he was kind of essentially on a quest, or he got a quest essentially but didn't know where to go. He kind of had to figure it out or discover it along the way, which is, again, to me, two different design approaches. You got to figure out what you like. Do you want your handheld the whole time, or do you want, like, here's something, you got to,
Or
take
do you
take it to this person, or why do I have it? Why is this thing important? And you kind of discover, figure it out along the way, or piece together other clues from lore, or you slowly talk to other NPCs and they say, "Oh, I know what that is," or "Yeah, you should go over here." So,
right. Yeah. And I mean, this is, I mean, kind of going off of the WoW example, this is definitely something that I think one of the big reasons why classic WoW was so fun, in that without a lot of this hand holding, you all you really have to go off of for a lot of your quests back in the day was, you had a bunch of text, and it was like, oh, if you follow the path to the east, you'll reach this, this castle,
hmm
and there you will find, scarlet inquisitors that you'll have to kill 10 of these things and bring it back. I mean, you have your quest trackers and things like that, of course, but that's kind of what the argument leaning into From Software's design was, is that, like, if you're really into the stuff that you're not really, you might have to use your noodle a little bit, then it sounds like this is a little bit more up your alley. But it kind of speaks to the design itself that this is so much more favorable, because I feel like, and this is just like I said, you and I have never played, are not really into these kinds of games, so it's hard to say. But a real big draw to this is that it really makes you feel immersive, kind of like you're on an adventure.
yeah.
Now, the thing I'm going to draw a parallel to is something like, going way, way back. This is the same feeling that I got when I was playing um, Morrowind. I don't know if
hmm
you played Morrowind, but it was in a similar vein like that, where you didn't have like immediate waypoints and things like that of all the different places to go like you do in, like, say, Skyrim. You
Yep.
go in Morrowind, I mean, you just start wandering around and you find stuff, you find enemies that are going to whoop your ass, and then you die and you load your save, and then you go, "Well, I'm not going over there anymore, so I'm going to go the other way." And then eventually, yeah, you end up back at that place and you kill those dudes, and it's just, it feels like you're on just a continuous adventure
Yep.
inside this big virtual world. And I think that's the idea that they were going for with Elden Ring, is that it's just a big adventure that you're going on. You do have quests, but mostly because you want to do that. It,
Yep.
it puts it in the player's hands to really get their hands dirty with the game, rather than telling them, okay, now you want to go to point A and you want to kill 10 things. And then you're going to go to point B and you're going to collect 5 of these. And then you're going to go to point C and click on this thing.
Yep.
Yay, you did it. Here's your quest reward. Congratulations. And so, drawing that comparison, I've never played Horizon game either, but one of the open world Ubisoft games I am pretty familiar with is The Division. And The Division does a lot of this stuff where you have waypoints going to very direct places. You have fast travel just going from
hmm
point A to point B. You have, we made fun of Halo Infinite for this with, like, the silly FOB, the points of interest on that just kind of populate the area to break up the empty space a little bit.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, like, it's okay. Like, it can be fun, but I think generally it's not as immersive as an experience as what From Software have done.
hmm
Um, and I can't wait to get into it, because, like I said, I'm really into that kind of stuff. And I think just going on an adventure and just doing things is cool. Like, that's really awesome. So I don't see why they're so open to just, like, dumping on the game for all these problems when they don't really even describe why these are problems. Like, for example, the guy that's whining about the UX talks about how bad this UX is, but as far as I've seen, he doesn't describe why it's bad. Is it
Yeah.
bad because it's not an Ubisoft UI, where it is littered with a mini map and a quest log on the side, and a bunch of buttons telling you exactly what to do, and all that? Or is it bad because there actually is some fundamental flaw with how they've approached it? From what I see, it looks exactly like a Souls game.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, the UI looks pretty much like a Souls game.
Yeah. It's yeah, I'd say it'd be like me. I don't know. Maybe it's a bad example. Buying a Madden game and complaining that it doesn't feel like NFL Blitz or Blitz, whatever. Right?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe a bad example, but it's just like, yeah, you're buying a From Software game. You kind of there's already again, there's games they've done and they do games this way. So to complain that they're not like your game is just crazy,
It's
crazy
bad
talk.
form, Peter. Bad form.
Yep. No, I mean, I think to your point though, that's like I think the quest design and the UX thing are the ones that bug me the most. I'd be interested to know where the other person works at was complaining about stability and performance, because I hope they don't work at somewhere like 343 or Dice or any of those other places,
Mm-hmm.
Cyberpunk, or CD Project Red, because it'd be yeah, not a good look if they work at any of those places and they're talking about crappy graphics and stability and performance. Because
Right.
but
And I mean, I know that we're probably going to be dunking on it later in this episode because we do have Halo stuff to talk about, but I didn't hear this guy complaining when people were diving into Halo's main menus and
yeah,
dunking
and
on how bad that UX was.
yeah, and to complain about the review score, right? Where are all these complaints for? Now, granted, they weren't 97s, but all these really high reviews for Halo and Battlefield,
And Battlefield, yeah,
and
like
a lot of these other games that get high reviews that are in bad shape when they launch. Again, we have two really recent examples with of Battlefield and Halo, but like there's still a lot of issues with both those games. They're not complete games. Their performance is bad, right? We've complained about the UI in Halo
right.
and Battlefield when we did the what was it, the
And we did the
beta or the
beta.
open play weekend or whatever, right?
Yep.
Where are these guys talking about how shitty those games are? So again, it just, like you said, it kind of screams jealousy,
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
just it's salt and it's bad form.
yeah,
It's bad form. Well, I mean, good luck to everybody playing Elden Ring. The more that we talk about it, the more I want to play it now. So I think probably maybe this is kind of a weekend thing that I just kind of download some Elden Ring and start playing it. So Matt, if you want to join me in Elden Ring, we can,
maybe if you stream it, I'll watch you.
maybe.
Then we'll see.
I don't know if my computer can handle that. If I'm being honest with you,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm just being honest.
you should get it on
Any,
console and then you can stream it.
oh, gross, no. Anyway, so moving on. One of the things that we thought was pretty interesting coming out of I think this came about last week or so, but
Yeah,
Sid Meier did a chat with the BBC, not that BBC, but the British Broadcasting Corporation. Um, and he
thanks for
sat
the
down.
clarification.
You're welcome. He sat down to talk to them about monetization in gaming. And I kind of wanted to just go through some of his quotes here, or maybe one, yeah, like a quote that he has here and a little piece of the article, and kind of just wanted to talk to you a little bit about monetization, whether he's kind of on point or what, if you share his opinion or not. But the general quote is, major companies continue to focus on ways like this. I don't remember what he's referring to. I think he's describing like the mobile games monetization model. Focus on ways like this to monetize gaming. They risk losing the audience. So just to take a little bit of context from um, the article, here's a little excerpt from the article. The real challenge and the real opportunity is keeping our focus on gameplay. That is what it is: unique, special, and appealing about games as a form of entertainment. When we forget that and decide it's monetization or other things that are not gameplay focused, when we start to forget about making great games and start thinking about games as a vehicle or an opportunity for something else, that's when we stray a little bit further from the path.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm just gonna flat out say that's a big ass true. Like
Yeah.
that's a thank you, Sid Meier, for being based. Like that is a good take right there.
Hmm. Now I know this is a big reason why I don't like these like battle pass, season pass type things. Granted, it is a monetization, but I'm going to make more focus on the not gameplay focused side of those things. Um, and we're just going to keep dunking on it here, but Halo is one of those things. One thing that I've been reading as the honeymoon phase has kind of, we've come out of the honeymoon phase with Halo Infinite, is people are just kind of, mad that, obviously it's unfortunate there's not more content coming down the line, but people are mad, like, just give me something to grind for. And I'm sitting here going, like, I completed the battle pass. Why can't I earn other things? I'm sitting here thinking, like, you're missing the point. Like I guess it's nice to have those things. Sometimes it's nice to have a battle pass where you get things as you play. I'm gonna use a game that I absolutely love, Hell Let Loose. Right? I forgot that you do certain things or reach certain ranks, you can get different hats or helmets or whatever outfits. Right? But to me, I play just to have fun. I enjoy playing this game. Right? I'm not trying to complete a battle pass. I'm not trying to get a skin I'll never use or an emblem that's just gonna sit in my digital whatever collection on the game.
Mm-hmm.
um, so I think that's kind of like, just, again, kind of what Sid Meier is focusing on here, is like we're losing sight of what makes games fun. So I kind of have to laugh whenever, for any of these games that is not getting, again, going to ship more on live content here, live service games, is when the content's not coming in, people are like, give me something to earn. I'm like, why don't you just play the game because it's fun? And again, it kind of missing to me this, missing the fact that you should be playing these games because they're fun, not to just earn something or collect
Right.
something. Again, especially when it's something you're not going to use. You know.
Right. I mean, and you know what? I echo this sentiment quite a bit. I think there is way too much focus on having these sort of gamified systems to keep you baited and playing longer. When
Hmm.
really, I think the thing that will ultimately always make people play games longer, especially live service games, is having community organized either content or events, but
Hmm.
getting the community engaged with each other, especially if you're playing online games. For a game like, and this is, I mean, maybe this is a hot take. I don't care if Halo Infinite gets a progression system. I know it's something people are definitely like are
Hmm.
big time begging for, but honestly, I think that's one of like the least interesting things that you could add to the game, because, going back to these progression systems, like, if you're thinking like Halo 3, right? How it was that sort of grind to like 5-star general or whatever.
Yep.
All it was just games played. That's it.
Yeah.
It was a badge saying who was the biggest poop soccer of the game.
Yep.
And there's nothing really valuable about that. I mean, there's nothing really that interesting unless like you can put some extra rewards behind reaching certain ranks, but at the same time, it's kind of it to me that feels hollow when your game has got a lack of content problem. That's not
Hmm.
content, that's just bait. That's bait to keep you playing longer and longer and longer. On the flip side, there's a reason why I still to this day go back and play Quake Live on a regular basis, because there is a select group of servers run by the community that I just love playing with, because every time I go in there, there's going to be somebody from that community who is going to be there, and they're fun to talk to, and it's just a bunch of people playing Quake. I don't give a rat's ass about leveling my account or unlocking rewards or getting all this bullshit from playing the game when I'm having fun just playing the damn game. Maybe that's a
Yeah.
boomer take. I don't know. But I echo the sentiment. But on the to keep it up with the monetization thing, I mean, he's absolutely right. There's been, between all the loot box shit and the battle pass garbage and the DLC packs that are just basically ripped from the original content and then resold as a DLC pack. Between
Hmm.
all of that, it's just garbage ways of trying to make a big buck off of a big release. And I love the Civilization games. That's, those have always been pretty good. Well, have been mostly pretty good. Um, and but they're always fun to play, and it's always fun
Hmm.
to spend a lot of time playing those games because, yeah, it doesn't aggressively monetize. It's not trying to bait you into buying loot boxes or getting a battle pass to play Civ.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, again, there's nothing wrong with having a lot of that stuff, but when you miss the point of making a fun game and then playing said game because it's
Hmm.
fun, um, that's just, yeah, you're missing the point there, the mark there with the game, if that's what you're more worried about, is just your progression or your season pass, and not like, hey, I'm opting in here to have fun. hop in here and have fun with my buddies, or experience this whatever, you know.
And I mean that's exceptionally true, especially with multiplayer games. I think like for single player games, getting something in there to keep you coming back and playing the game even when you don't have it. I mean that's usually what modders are for. Like modders help make extend the longevity, kind of underscoring the point I was making that the community kind of lends a hand in keeping that game alive longer. Um, but I think that you're you know the gameplay should always be a first class citizen in when you're making a video game, right? I mean
Yep.
that sounds like common sense, but a lot of the time that's not what happens. Is that the gameplay ends up becoming a second class citizen to the monetization model. As a fun thought exercise, what do you think would have happened if the table was flipped around? Halo Infinite launches, and instead of big team battle being broken, the shop is broken, and the shop doesn't work. Which do you think they're going to be? Do you think that they're going to give it the same treatment where they're going to take the rest of the month off and then try and slowly roll out updates to get the shop fixed? Or do you think that they would get a little bit more aggressive on that because it's, how they make money?
They would have kept some engineers and QA around to make sure it gets patched pretty quickly. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was going to kind of bring that up too. Is you're talking about, like, keeping the community around is, we called this before it launched, but that the fact that Forge and Co-op were not shipping with that game really hurt. There's you're not getting that community content. Heck, even custom games. I know they're there,
Or
but they're
being able
apparently
or
broken.
file share
File share.
even.
This stuff, like you're saying, that would kind of keep the community. I bet there'd be a little bit different story, even with the other issues that are there. Be the community as a whole would probably be a little bit less heated, if they had those things there already, because they're able to share that thing, or the campaign experience with friends. They're able to create crazy modes in custom game or in Forge, and again, kind of entertain the player base while they wait for the game to be finished or fixed, or whatever you want to
Mhm.
call. So, but they were more focused on getting the game out, so they can start monetizing the multiplayer, and get the community in there, and have suffered. We'll see if they continue to suffer, um, as time goes on. But
Right. But I mean, if you are a developer, be sure you focus on gameplay first, right?
yeah,
Should always be gameplay first. That's what we play games for, is for the gameplay. I mean, some people might play for the graphics, some might play for the monetization. Most of us play because the game is fun and we like playing.
and those things are nice to have if the
Yes.
gameplay is there, if the
Right.
experience is there, if you're playing it because you want to.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And I mean, to give them credit, the gameplay for Halo Infinite is there. It's good. That's why I still play it, is because I do have fun with the core of the gameplay. It's a lot of the externalities that are ruining the experience, you know, like the shitty UX. But, let us know what you think. Do you think Sid Meier's on the money, or do you think that he's talking out of his bum a little bit? Leave us a comment, join our Discord, and let us know.
yep.
All right. So we were able to take at least a week off from talking about this. 2 weeks, in fact, from
I think
talking
I
about
think we
this.
were lucky enough to take a week or two off of talking about this next topic and shitting
Yes.
on some games, but we're
Right.
back
But we're
stronger than
back.
ever.
We're back, baby. All right. NFTs, crypto, metaverses. That's the subject of this next discussion. So Gabe Newell, the head honcho of Valve, overlord of Steam, bringer of gifts and sales and Steam decks. Apparently,
Yeah,
he
good
had
old Lord
some
Gaben.
Lord Gaben. He had some things to talk about when being asked about NFTs and crypto, specifically in the games industry. Here's the quote or here's one of the quotes from that article. This is from PC Gamer. there's a bunch of get rich quick schemes around metaverses. Most of the people who are talking about metaverses have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. And they've apparently never played an MMO. They're like, "Oh, you'll have this customizable avatar." And it's like, "Well, go into Final Fantasy 14 and tell me that this isn't a solved problem from a decade ago. Not some fabulous thing that you're inventing now."
Hmm.
Obviously, the gaming industry has been exploring these technologies for a long time. It will be interesting to see if anybody who's sort of coming to the party late has much to add rather than a desire to have a whole bunch of people give them a bunch of money for magic reasons. But, in the end, customers and useful technology win out. So I'm not super worried about that. So that was his thoughts on, obviously, metaverses. Um, so I kind of wanted to chat with you a little bit, Matt. The smidge about metaverses, that sort of thing, and how a lot of big publishers and things like that don't really seem to either understand it or they don't really know what to do with this sort of a thing. It
Hmm.
seems like it's just a big way to combine, um, you know, like brands, and it's a
Yep.
good branding exercise for people who are trying to sell you stuff.
Yep.
One of the things that I love going back to when it comes to things like like these different like metaverse hubs. Like I'm thinking of the Facebook Meta. That's is what
Hmm.
I'm kind of referring to. And really all it is this little like tiny virtual like VR chat basically. And it doesn't do anything special that isn't already out there that does
Yeah.
it better. And I go all the way back to something like think of like something like Habbo Hotel. Habbo Hotel, Club Penguin, that sort of a thing. Like this is a place where people just like these social gathering spaces that are just online social spaces. It's
Hmm.
already been done.
Yeah.
Second Life, of course, Habbo Hotel, like I mentioned. Even MMOs, like what Gaben said. And like these social spaces for exchanging, ideas, meeting people, that sort of thing it's already a thing that's been done before. And
Hmm.
really, what these metaverses seem to be doing is just trying to leverage off of this idea that we can put it in VR or um, have some sort of a gimmick or something like that, like being able to buy goofy real estate and sell it and things like that. Again, Second Life has already done this, and they've been doing it for a very long time. And try
Yeah.
and play it off as it's like some like new technology when it's like not even close.
Yeah, we've kind of chatted about this before, but that's my thing with a couple of topics here we're chatting about. Is just like well, one, especially with the metaverse, I don't think that 90% of the companies that say they're entering a metaverse have any clue what it is. It's a To them, it's just a buzzword, an easy way to get some publicity. I get, I can't speak for any of these companies, but just the way they talk about it, it's just they're just trying to ride the hype train, is what it sounds like. Because yeah, they have no clue what it is or how it's going to implement it or how it's going to be different than existing, at least for us, hardcore gamers, I guess you could say. Um, that we haven't been doing already. We haven't done already. We
Hmm.
haven't, like you said, there's been these other games or places that have been doing these chat areas with your avatars and buying real estate and shops and all in exchanging of digital goods and having your own whatever libraries and objects and all that fun stuff.
And even
Um,
even as far as like the branding thing too, if I remember correctly, I'm gonna have to go and make sure I'm not crazy, but um, if I remember a long time ago, like even Coca Cola used to have kind of like its own social space. I can't honestly remember what it was called. Um, I'm gonna have to dig this up. But yeah, there was
but it's we don't they're trying to solve, like we've said before, they're trying to solve a problem that's already been solved, but trying to market it like a new idea.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to kind of what I'm wondering is if it's more like, is kind of separating like a group like us, especially our audience is like, we've been in games, we've seen stuff like this, but maybe the broader public, or the people outside of our gaming circle, a lot of this stuff is new to them and seems exciting. And it's also, now we're at a point with technology where it's accessible, much more easily accessible, by things like buying a what that Oculus. That's, you don't need a crazy PC, or you can do on your phone or your tablet, or you can just do through a web browser on your computer, right? You don't need some crazy big rig. You don't need the PlayStation or Xbox or anything like that, right? Um, so maybe that's kind of why they're trying to market it like this crazy big new thing. It's not necessarily for us, because again, we've been through a lot of this stuff already, so it's not really new to us. It's new to everybody else that's not in the gaming world. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's kind of their plan, their kind of tactic they're using, or thought process. But yeah, I don't know. I I've yet to see anything where people are using a metaverse, and I don't go digging through all this stuff daily. So maybe there are plenty of metaverses being developed out there that are doing something new and unique. And I'd be, again, we keep saying it, but if you know about any of this stuff, tweet at us, hop on our Discord, let us know. I'm very much interested in this, right? But nothing that's out now that I've seen is really changing anything, doing anything new and
Mm-hmm.
unique.
Right. Oh,
Again, maybe just making it more accessible. That's maybe the biggest thing. And
well, yeah. I mean, like if you have to buy a VR headset to get in on some of this stuff, like that's such an expensive barrier to entry. And from what I understand, the Facebook metaverse is also just kind of tanking in people using it. Like, I saw something that 4chan was planning to do like a Habbo hotel raid on Facebook's. I think it's called Horizon Worlds. They were going to do a raid on Horizon Worlds that was similar to the pools closed raids from Habbo Hotel way back in the day. Kids, go look up your memes that if you don't know what that is. But they can't get the traction. They couldn't get the traction to even do it because nobody gives a shit about Horizon Worlds. Either the people rating it or the people actually using it. Like no one
Mhm.
cares. Also, I did find out what that Coke metaverse thing that I was talking
What
about.
was it?
It's called My Coke.
Uh,
My Coke. It basically looks like a Habbo hotel, but with Coke stuff everywhere. And we're talking Coke the soda.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember I for
Might
some
be more
reason remember
interesting
this.
if it was
The other
other
kinds of
Coke.
Coke. Yeah. But yeah, that's like I said, like this I don't remember when this was when they released this, but this is like early 2000s that this existed.
Mhm.
So, again, metaverse thing, not a new concept. Lots of companies have done it. Lots of companies have killed off, have started up, ran, and killed a lot of these projects in the time that, way before Facebook and a lot of other companies got through this metaverse concept. Anyway, so moving on with that, Gabe Newell also did a little chat with Eurogamer as well regarding NFTs and crypto. So I'm just gonna read a little bit of the excerpt here. We can dive into that. Basically, the TLDR of this is that he thinks that there's a lot of people behind NFTs who are bad actors who are not really genuine in trying to provide something good other than to scam people out of their money. So here's what he has to say. The things that were being done were super sketchy, and there was some illegal shit that was going on behind the scenes, and you're just like, yeah, this is bad. Blockchain as a technology is great technology. That the ways are great technology, that the ways in which have been utilized are currently all pretty sketchy. And you sort of want to stay away from that. We have the same problem when we're accepting cryptocurrencies. 50% of the cryptocurrency paid for transactions were fraudulent. You look at that and you're like, well, that's bad. And then cryptocurrency's volatility means that people had no idea what price they were actually paying. Yes, they were anchored to a cryptocurrency, but most people's wages are not in cryptocurrencies. So they're like, how come I just paid $498 for this product? And if the answer is, that's what happens when you have a highly volatile currency that you're paying for, that's like today. You paid 99 cents for it tomorrow, you're going to pay 498 for, and people make that, no, and that makes people super cranky. So it just wasn't a good method. The people who were currently active in that space are usually not good actors. So I believe what he's referring to here is that they were accepting cryptocurrencies on Steam for a limited time.
Hmm.
And what they found, yeah, is that about 50% of their transactions in cryptocurrency were fraudulent. And
Yeah.
so it caused them to want to pull the plug. I believe Gaben has already stated that he has no interest right now in doing anything with NFTs or anything like that with any of the games or Steam, integrating NFTs into Steam or anything like that.
Yeah.
Mainly because he believes, as of right now, there hasn't really been a lot of evidence to prove that people are in this for legitimately good reasons other than just it's a good thing to monetize. This was something that you and I have been talking about pretty at
Hmm.
length, you know, um, that this was a big fear, right? Is that a lot of companies are going to get on board with the NFT thing and it's really going to be more of a scam than anything else. Um, for
More of
one,
just kind of like the next, we've gone
it's
from
the
horse
next loot
DLC
box,
to microtransactions to loot boxes to, yeah. So this is like the next iteration for
loot
um,
boxes or
the
something,
way it was being implemented now in the one or two games we had talked about previously was just, yeah, they weren't solving anything. It was they're just doing the same thing, just now on a blockchain,
right?
right? But yeah, I mean, I agree with Gabe right now as far as Valve and Steam not accepting or doing either of these things, right? As someone who is into crypto and NFTs, right, I do see positives, and I think there is benefits to stuff like these in the future. But it's especially something like accepting cryptocurrencies, it's very volatile. So as a company, yeah, right, they could be like, yeah, we accept Bitcoin, and then it tanks tomorrow, right? And now they're out of, so I think once something like that gets a little more stable, I see it being much more widely accepted, whatever cryptocurrency or cryptocurrencies float to the top and kind of survive all the
Mm-hmm.
craziness right now in that world. Same thing with NFTs. I think once there's an application where it makes sense to use them, we're going to start seeing those pop up, and we're going to start seeing those be accepted. But again, it kind of what we said before is in the current iteration, the current way some of these things are being used. Yeah, it's just for cryptocurrencies too volatile, right? It makes
Right.
sense. The business doesn't want to be able to be paid a bunch of money in a very valuable crypto today, and tomorrow it's
Have it be worth
nothing.
nothing. Yeah.
You know, because the likelihood of it, you know, skyrocketing, not every crypto is going to do that. And there's a ton of shit coin out there right now.
Right. There is
um,
a lot of bad.
yeah. And
Yeah.
same thing with, NFTs. I think right now, again, right now, the way they were being used is there's nothing new. We've already solved what the problem that these companies have been using them for. But in the future, I think there'll be, I've had some ideas on different things, but, I think there are going to be good ways to be able to use those. But again, and I think once those kind of get
Yeah.
around and it's not so kind of scammy feeling that, you'll see these companies and studios and stuff using them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there could be some really cool usages of the tech to do things that are interesting with things
Hmm.
like NFTs or, if you wanted to utilize the blockchain for some cool gaming tech. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. But yeah, when you start factoring in all the money involved with the NFTs and crypto and all that, it gets we already don't have a lot of trust in the games industry from all the crap that we've been through over the last like 15 or so years. So we're kind
Yep.
of just fed up with what, at least I'm fed up with what a lot of these people
Just
are trying to sell us.
just a lot of PTSD.
Yes. Just
Oh
like all the
no.
loot boxes.
Another, yeah. No, I think it's kind of, instead of finding and discovering or trying to build new opportunities with this new tech, we're just trying to use the new tech for the old shitty stuff that we've been doing already.
Right, right.
And yeah, and it's just, again, for people like us, we see it coming from a mile away. We're just like, nah. So
Yep. So those are Gaben's thoughts. If you were, in case you were wondering what Gabe thought about NFTs and metaverses and all that, he doesn't have a super strong opinion about it. If I had to imagine, I would feel Sid Meier might have a similar opinion on it, just from his his comments about monetization and gaming and all that. All right. moving on from all the talk about metaverses, NFTs, all that good stuff that we love to talk about. It's other things that we like to talk about. Games. Uh, as it turns out, we like talking about games. We also really like dunking on games. So sorry in advance, we have to do this. We have to get this out, or our brains are going to explode if we don't get to dunk on our favorite dunkable games from time to time. So
This is our venting session.
this is allows us to vent a little bit. Honestly though, like this isn't the first one here. We're gonna start with Battlefield 2042, and this one isn't really so much of a it's not really a venting thing, but they released a blog not too long ago talking about their maps. And they're just had a lot of feedback around like the map flow and how it felt really big and open, and it didn't feel quite right.
Hmm.
And so they put out a blog describing some of the things that they were going to be looking into, what their solutions are to some of these problems, a couple of examples, things like that. So, just going to go through some of these bullet points here, and then you and I can kind of talk about how we feel about this. So, one of
Sounds
the things
good.
they wanted to talk about was traversal. They described the problem as maps being too large, and there's far too much space in between the map objectives. So, what they want to do is they want to reduce travel time between flag and base spawns on many of the maps to cut down on the walking simulator feel of the game. Okay. Like I said, well, I'm going to reserve my thoughts on this until we get to the end of this list. The intensity. Breakthrough problem, 128 players can get chaotic, possibly reducing the game mode back down to 64 players and or reducing the amount of vehicles that can spawn. It's a different problem. Line of sight, there's too much open flat space. So they're going to look to add more terrain, more stuff to hide behind in between objectives and things like that. Pathing. So paths toward various objectives are unclear. So like roads and things like that don't necessarily lead in between objectives, and you can't really see like a clear path on how to get to the next objective without going through, of course, empty space. So they're looking to bring improvements to pathing. That's as just generic as what they gave. Cover, of course, kind of goes into the same thing with line of sight. Not a lot of cover on the maps, so they're going to add more cover to kind of help break up the line of sight, break up that whole open flat spaces. And that's like kind of the gist of what this blog post is covering. So I kind of want to open it up to you, Matt. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, you and I have been playing a lot of Hell Let Loose for almost a year now. Well, it's like 8 months now,
Yeah, what was it? May, I think, is when I joined up.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're getting close to a year.
we're getting close. So that game is 100 players. I want to say that those maps are far bigger than
They gotta be.
the Battlefield maps. How do you feel about what they have to say about some of these bullet points here, whether it be like the line of sight or the traversal or the intensity or things like that?
It sounds like a lot of like, again, I don't want to, I'm not, I'll bet you the designers brought this up, and I bet you QA brought this up, and I bet a lot of other people brought this up. It just doesn't sound like they finished designing and polishing the experience, right? They just kind of threw this all together, and these are the results of this. Because a lot of these, to your point, Hell Let Loose has a lot of these. I'm not going to call them issues, right? It's part of the game, right? There's a lot of line of sight. There is open spots. It can get very chaotic with 100 people, but that all plays to how the game is designed. It's purposely done that way. Not saying like lack of cover, line of sight, right? It's just the way the maps are designed, that there can be open spaces, there can be lines of sight, but there's plenty of cover. It pushes you to be more tactical in, and thinking about your strategy on how you want to tackle either attacking or defending, certain points or areas. And that plays well into the gameplay loop for that game. Here, this just is like some of these things that I also don't think would necessarily a problem, like the intensity. Is it bad that it gets chaotic? I haven't played, so maybe it's a different type of chaotic than Hell Lets Loose is, 50 people on a point and bombing runs coming in, grenades blowing everywhere and smoke, so maybe it's a different type of chaos, not a fun one like that one. But it's
Mhm.
just, to me, this just screams like they just pieced something. I'm using air quotes for people that don't see me on video. Functional, something playable, and they shipped it right.
Mm.
Um, Now, as far as I do agree. I have played these maps, and they're I'd say a little bit different type of wide open, a little bit too much of open line of sight and lack of cover compared to something like Hell Let Loose. So I do think there are problems there, as far as Battlefield is concerned. Um, but a lot of their solutions too that they gave to this is just they're like hopefully this works. But again, like to me, they're not really addressing a lot of the design decisions that make a lot of these issues.
Right. So like they're what they've described as going to like the say like the traversal problem. They
Hmm.
want to reduce time between flag and base spawns. I mean, that's really generic,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of different ways that you can go about doing that. One of those ways is, as we know with Hell Let Loose, is that, you have like mobile spawn points and things like that to help
Yep.
provide, a better coordinated effort instead of having to walk from, all the way on a spawn point on the other side of the map to get to where your squad is. But I mean, I think you can also spawn on your squad
Yeah. It's just
in Battlefield. So
yeah.
it's kind of there, but if your squad gets wiped or something like that, then yeah, you're back to walking simulator. The
Yeah.
other thing is, of course, to address that is vehicles, but apparently, there is a pretty big problem with spawning a lot of those light vehicles. Um, but that might be mostly because of how the system that they've implemented for spawning those vehicles has been done. So instead of spawning things like the big trucks that can carry like, 16 people or something like that, it's up to you to spawn those little jeeps that can hold like three or
Hmm.
little airboats or something like that. So it's like, like I definitely feel like there could be some design changes, and that was some of the I don't know. I think that was some of the feedback that we had when we were playing the beta test. But one of the things I wanted to kind of just discuss with this was the fact that they're considering bringing it down from 128 players back to 64. Do you think that that's a good decision?
Not having played this breakthrough mode, I can't say for sure, but no, I don't think it's a good idea. Again, what is I should have looked it up. Do you know what the breakthrough mode is? I thought,
I don't remember. You have to look that up.
yeah,
All right, so like
but I don't think I don't think that's necessarily again the issue. To me, it just sounds like the way it's designed and probably the wide open nature of the maps. Again, we see this and we complain about it a lot in Hell Let Loose. Those people that spawn and go just directly at the point. Now, again, even though there's a lot of wide open in Hell Let Loose, you get rewarded for doing, or there's a lot of strategy in flanking, going out and around, and there are usually cover around strong points that you can make your way around, assuming you don't run into other. And that's some of the exciting part of that game is then you run into other squads that might be doing it, trying to do it to you, right?
Mhm.
But when very little bit I played of Battlefield 2042, there's not a lot of that ability cover to be able to kind of, and it's a little bit different nature too, as far as like the speed and the gameplay than Hell Let Loose. That there's not like I'm going to take an extra 5 minutes to walk really out of the way with my squad and try to get around. It's just that's not the way the game's designed. So
Mhm.
so to me, I bet you it does get a little hectic when you got 64 on 64, just basically just bang their heads on each other down, the same lane. So
Right.
to me, then, yeah, that's probably a problem. Why don't we design, or come up with something with the game design that rewards or gets you to not just always spawn and run down the same lane and try to kill one or two people and, rinse and repeat, right?
Sure. So yeah, I mean, I get that. I think that the 64 player thing is a bit of a cop out. I mean, this was a really big selling point to the game. This was one of the big things that people were really excited about was that you were finally upping the player count after I don't even remember when they upped it from 32 to 64, if that was always a thing. I remember that being a thing in Battlefield 2, so it's been a long time that they've had that player count. But now that we have the technology to, support that many players, I mean, maybe need to be a little bit more rethinking about how the game actually plays. One of the things I'm kind of thinking about is that maybe that 128 players doesn't necessarily work with how they've increased the speed of the game over these last few years. They're trying
Hmm.
to keep up with the
Yep.
CODs of the world, like it's not as kind of a slow paced crawl, like, no, it's not a crawl like, say, like Squad or Hell Let Loose, but like, something akin to like a Battlefield 2 or something like that, where it's not like you're not just like sprinting all over the place, crouch sliding, jumping over stuff, like grapple hooking onto something, and it's like doing all this crazy maneuvering to the point where it's like, and that you have the ridiculously fast time to kill. Um, I say that as Hell Let Loose time to kill could be one shot. You just
Yeah.
die. You
Hmm.
don't really have time to react. So I don't know, like with a short time to kill like that, it makes me think that like it's not really a player count problem. It's just how you've kind of boxed them into like, and the systems kind of surrounding what how the players can strategically engage on these different points. So I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe it's more of a map problem.
And
It's
I pulled up the game mode here. Breakthrough. They must have renamed this. I've been out of the Battlefield. Sorry, I've been out of the Battlefield game for probably technically 2 games. I played Battlefield 1, but not a lot of the multiplayer. But um, it's essentially what I used to know it as rush mode, attackers or defenders,
oh,
and
sure.
you either defend 2 points until I think the other team runs out of tickets, or as
They
the attackers
push.
you push and you slowly capture more and more of the map. Which, by the way, was I fucking love that mode. This
Yeah.
was my favorite when I played Bad Company 2. I really only ever played rush mode, um, which now that knowing what that is, it makes me believe more that it's more in how the design and probably the placement of the objectives that make it seem more chaotic than it should be. Because again,
Which
my
is funny
guess is
because
there's not a lot. There's probably not a lot of lanes or room for attackers to go out and around to attack whatever point is being defended or points, and that's causing people again to kind of just go down a single lane and a road or what again, however these maps are designed, go through a single choke point or so, and just again kind of turn into a meat grinder.
right. I mean, like, going back to this Hell Let Loose example, I mean, they already do stuff like that. They have a rush mode. They have the ability to capture those kinds of points and
Hmm.
push through the map and things like that. And we're working off of 100 players. No, it's not
and it's
128, but
and it's one point that you have to capture too. I
sometimes.
Again, with rush mode it was always two. If I'm
Yep.
not sure if it changed, but it was always two. um and yeah, heck, I was even playing last night on Purple Heart Lane, which is one of the more notoriously wide open, not a lot of cover maps. And the squad I was in and another squad ended up pushing out into these fields, which if you were running across them were wide open, but they had these little water lanes in them. They could keep your head down and push in. And again, it caused us to go out and around and attack from a different point.
Hmm.
Granted, there was still plenty of the team that's trying to push up the middle, and obviously tactically, you want to at least have a couple squads doing that to try to keep the defenders focused on you, and allow people like my squad and the other squad that was with us to flank around and attack from a different angle. But again, that's how let loose, and that's how it works, and that's a good way of having it designed to work that way. And my guess is if it's feeling too chaotic with breakthrough in 2042, it's probably not designed that way, or the maps are not designed that way to promote that type of gameplay
Yeah.
or strategy.
And I mean, I have a hard time believing that a lot of like it being the location of the points as being part of the problem. One of the reasons I say that is that in Hell Let Loose, you have maps that are essentially like Conquest. Like the gameplay is exactly like Conquest.
Yeah.
You have a mode that is what that is. They randomize the points that are capturable on the map. They're not always the same every map.
Hmm.
So the fact that they can pull that off with 100 players and still somehow manage to organize the chaos, so to speak, I think just speaks volumes that the design of Battlefield 2042 is either outdated or they didn't do a lot of thinking about how 128 players would have an impact on what they currently had, and how fast they're trying to make the gameplay with that many people is
Mhm.
it just doesn't work, and they didn't spend enough time fleshing that out.
My guess of what probably happened at EA slash Dice is between kind of the unique working conditions with the pandemic. I'm not blaming that, but that probably added stress to the game and the team. The fact that with that extra time or stress or unique working situation, the team probably needed more time, but we're not given that. Again, on top of that, EA has been notoriously bad at forcing this is how we want the certain mechanics in and out. And they could have even flip flop. We heard about that with Anthem. 1 minute flying's in there, the next it's not. That really screws, as we've talked in a past episode, how you design your levels, right? So my guess is all that craziness, and then the fact that they weren't given an extended period of time to develop this game. That there was, and again, this is not knocking the developers or QA or anything there, but they were not given enough time to play test and iterate and hey, this doesn't work. Well, how can we modify the map? How can we modify maybe the gameplay or the vehicles, right? So yeah, I think a lot of those factors are probably what caused the state of Battlefield 2042 now. It's
Mhm.
just yeah, again, yeah, you could argue, oh, it's the playtesters and the QA and the developers. Well, I guarantee you, again, it was all the crappy decisions made by execs and the lack of time to be able to iterate
Right.
and
They
figure
weren't
out
given.
how does 64 and 64 work. Okay, well, this is it's turning into just a meat grinder. It's going up the same lane. Well, okay, well, what do we need to do? Design with either calling in the vehicles or the design of the map or the placements of the points or right? They
Right.
probably didn't have that time to iterate and even if they maybe had time or had a window of time where that would have happened, there could have, as I said before, maybe the execs were all just flip flopping on designs. Oh, you need a what I've already forgot what their little loadout system is instead of having unique operators to fill a role, right? Maybe they were flip flopping back and forth on different decisions there, or destructibility in the environment, or whatever. Right? There's probably a ton of factors that went in there, so that caused the outcome that we have today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think that would make sense is that they got pressured into releasing this thing for a holiday season around, around Call of Duty, and that was also a disastrous launch. Um, and yeah, it was probably pressure that really caused them to not be able to iterate as much as they could. That's one of the big advantages that Hell Let Loose had, is that it went into early access in 2018 and didn't come out until last year as its 1.0. So they had a lot of time and a lot of people play testing this game over the last few
Hmm.
years to make sure that they got that formula just right, and by god they have it right. Like it is a
Yeah.
real it's the game is solid. And I think, just it just takes some iterating and some extra time to flesh out how to work with this bigger population count, because I mean, I played PlanetSide 2. That has like 2,000 people per map. And I mean, the maps are gargantuan and it's always fun. It's
Yeah.
always an amazing time playing that. And it doesn't feel too chaotic, because when it gets really like when the battles start getting really nasty is when it gets really, really fun. So I don't know. I think that's something that they're going to end up having to address. They're going to have to, I feel like one of the things they're going to end up having to do is kind of going back to the drawing board on this 128 player stuff. But I really don't think that they should half it and just go back to the same old, because that's what just kind of makes, I mean, like, yeah, they could just do that and make Battlefield 2042 be like just another Battlefield game, but with operators instead of classes. And I don't think the reception to that will still be very good.
Which it wasn't it Final Fantasy, is it 14 that was awful and then they kind of basically took it off shelves, went dark for a year and then came back and re-released
Yeah,
it?
but they
Uh,
went dark for more than a year. It was
yeah.
a while. But they pulled the plug. They went back to the drawing board and kind of redid a bunch of things, and
I'd be fine if
re-release the game.
Battlefield and Halo did both those things. You did
Yeah.
that. Just pull the plug. Say own up to your mistake and fix it.
Yeah.
Right. Come back with a good and functional game.
Yep.
Instead of like it's live service and we're gonna kind of patch it slowly over 5 years until
Mm-hmm.
it works the way it was supposed to last year.
Well, in good Battlefield news, you got a scoreboard now.
Yeah. See, we're not all doom and gloom over here.
Well, now we get to talk about Halo Infinite. So
Oh man. Oh, we thought we were through the
bring on
woods
the doom.
here.
Yeah, bring on the doom and gloom. Well, so what we have to talk about Halo Infinite today is that we just got an update this last week. Was it last week? It was like late last week. Got some communication from 343 basically describing sort of their, it's not really like a roadmap update or anything like that. We still don't have any roadmap or what their big plan is, what the details of the plans are. But we do know that there is a couple things that we're a bit sad about. One of those things is that co-op is getting delayed again.
Surprise!
It's not coming out with season 2. We do know what season 2's name is that it's Lone Wolves. My guess is that
Come on, do it.
I don't want to say that. I love
Do
the
it.
joke, but I don't want to do it. Yeah, it's going to be called Lone Wolves because all your friends stopped playing the game to play something else.
Yep.
Ah.
Also kind of a little correct. Well, we'll honestly we'll see what happens. But co-op is coming in season 2, just not at launch. They said probably about midway through. But again,
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
see if
thank
that
you.
actually happens.
Right.
We'll actually see if that happens.
Right.
Also, this is a scenario where I hate being right, you know. I knew this was going to get delayed.
Yeah.
Nobody believed me.
You're the Ian
And,
Malcolm of the group right now.
And I made a bold statement on Twitter after reading this the other night.
Yes, you did.
I'm
saw
gonna
that.
I'm gonna put it into the podcast here as well. I guarantee you Forge is also going to be delayed again, whether it's a full season or something similar to co-op, where it'll be mid season 3 or whatever, happens. So I just want to put myself on the record there and hopefully I'm wrong, because this is a situation I don't want to be, but I'm calling it.
Yeah.
Calling my shot.
I mean, going along with the information that they dropped, to be honest, there really wasn't a whole lot. I mean, they're like they talked about how, in their priorities list, they have priority 0 is maintaining a healthy work-life balance. Okay, that's noble, I guess. But your game is dying, so I guess that's good that the team is healthy, though. Number 1, priority 1 after that is addressing issues that are negatively impacting the player experience. So they have what they call a hot list of things that they are working on. They do not describe in this article what those hot list of things are. They give an example of, let's see here. I think they give an example of like they just say the BTB matchmaking thing. I mean, that's good. The whole mode was busted for a month and a half, so I'm glad that was a top priority thing. More work on the player progression is something that they've talked about, but yeah, it's all been like really, really vague in this blog post. So it doesn't give a lot of information as to what are the things that they are working on. Sounds like there might be a little bit of work on anti-cheat, but beyond that, we don't know what they're what they're going after fixing, like what the bugs are. Is it desync? Is it UI problems? Is it stuff with theater, custom games, anything like that? We don't know. So with that, their next big priority, of course, is season 2, Lone Wolves season 2. Great. They have a bunch of armor styles and things like that are coming with season 2, because that's what we're excited about when half the game doesn't work. But they did give some concept art of a couple of maps. They kind of gave a bit of a description of the maps that they are working on. So Breaker is the new big team battle map, and Catalyst, I believe, is the arena map. Um, they have a couple of new game modes that they're talking about bringing in, something called Last Spartan Standing. I can see this being teed up for a, you know, battle royale sort of a thing. Um, as well as a new mode called Land Grab. I don't know how different that is going to be from the land grab in, like, say, Halo 3. I don't know if you ever played that.
I haven't. I don't think it's been a while.
Yeah, it's basically you just fight over, I mean, it's you fight
Yeah.
over points. It's, I mean, it's basically like it's
Isn't there something
kind
already like that in the game now?
yeah, there's a big team battle mode, but, like, instead of being able to take it back and forth, once you take it, you just take it.
That's
And
your
it's
point. Yeah.
about, yeah. And then, of course, they're bringing in King of the Hill. So we have to wait until season 2 for that, which is weird. But um the priority after that is, of course, campaign co-op and Forge. Um they have stated that Forge will not be until season 3. So I don't know how long these seasons are supposed to be, but if you know, season 1 started in December and season 2 begins in May, I can imagine season 3 does not happen for a long time.
I think the seasons are I think supposed to be 3 months. There's supposed to be 4 seasons in a year. Obviously, there was the exception, which was kind of the funny thing I had to laugh about way back when was co-op was and Forge were being delayed to season 2 and 3, and seasons were only supposed to be 3 months. And then the first, at least season 1, was extended to whatever we're at now, 6 months. I think is whenever we'll finally get season 2. So it's kind of like both the
Mhm.
delays got additional delays because they just extended season 1. Um, but yeah, I think what is it? Would we say May 3rd is the projected date for season 2? So that'd be June, July, August, what, September or August, September there that we'd get potentially season 3. So I don't know.
I don't know either. Yeah, it's
There's all and what worries me is that number 3 priority here is all the stuff that we talked earlier that could potentially make players happy for a while they fix the game, right? Your Forge, your co-ops, you know, like that should be number 1. Let's get that stuff in the game so you can play with your friends, or your friends are excited to run through the campaign or run through the open world stuff, or
right.
make those crazy game modes, right? That should
Right.
be priority
Just
number 1.
exactly like we talked earlier in the episode. I mean, the community engaging with custom content is going to what is going it's what's going to keep everybody motivated to keep playing when the content isn't there, you know? Like, I feel like that's one of the things that was just sorely missed, that if you were going to have a, big lack of playlists and things like that, the least that you could have done is make sure that the custom games are working. Like,
Yeah.
come on, man. Like, custom games working and maybe even a file share, so that people can make a bunch of goofy shit and share it with each other, because that sounds like the custom games is actually kind of neat with the amount of stuff that you can tweak. It's just a shame that it's busted, you know?
Hmm.
That'd be really fun to be able to play some of those things and be able to find games that are people are playing and share those.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I
honestly, that was about it. Yeah, like we said with co-op is being delayed until sometime in season 2. Um, maybe they're aiming for a late season 2 launch. And that was most of the blog post. No details, no update on the where the roadmap is at, or what fixes are in this hot list, or any of this stuff.
yeah.
Like, it's so, like, the communication between 343 and its community has been so radio silent, and they've just been kind of like just sprinkling these little blog posts saying, "Hey, yeah, here's an update. Co-op and Forge are being delayed,
Hmm.
but we're working on stuff." That's pretty much been the communication. It's just like, "Yep, we're working on stuff. Season 2 has some things in it. You can expect 2 maps."
Yeah, what a dry season. I hope that doesn't continue. 2 maps and 3 modes that should already, well, sorry, not the 2 modes that could be a little different than past ones, but like how these should just be launching well, if the maps aren't finished, obviously they shouldn't launch tomorrow. But
Right.
the modes should be in there already. You know, the fact, I hope we get more than 2 maps next season, because that's, again, looking at this under, 2 different lenses, one live service, 2 Microsoft's flagship AAA title. Like, that's embarrassing. I mean, the state of the game already is embarrassing.
Mhm.
But and the funny thing here is, all this talk of all this stuff. Now, this is only a small thing, but something they also didn't mention is replayable missions.
Oh,
That's
yeah. Yep, they didn't
nothing.
talk about any fixes to the campaign or
There's
anything like
still,
that.
I think,
Yeah.
2 missions at the start and like 2 or 3 at the end. You have to literally start a new game if you want to play those
Yep.
and work towards them. Um, it's just, it's crazy. And look, like, I know we kind of, poked a little bit at the health of the team. Look, yeah, I if let me put it this way. Yes, it should be a priority that your team is healthy and not run down, and that they're being compensated correctly. But the way this came across, just from the last couple months of lack of communication, or of little communication that they've done, this sounds like a really bad excuse, is what this comes across as. Is like,
Mhm.
oh, we're just focusing on team health. That's why we're really slow at everything. No, it sounds like you have a lot of trouble. And this is like, again, not saying, trying to knock down stuff with like the pandemic and stuff, but to me, sometimes there were excuses over the last couple of years of blaming the pandemic for issues with things, where it's like, well, those didn't affect you. Those, you're just using it as an easy excuse to say why this wasn't done very well,
Yeah.
or why we released it early, and it's in a bad shape, right? So to me, this is kind of where this team health stuff comes across. Is like, yes, please focus on it. I hope that is number one priority always,
Yes.
but in this situation, it seems like an excuse.
Right. I mean, especially because we really haven't seen neither content nor updates on what we are supposed to be expecting out of season 1. We've
Hmm.
had a couple of events, and those couple of events have been mostly variation. Like, I think the tactical event just started. Like the whatever it is, the
Yes,
tactical
I
event, which
think
is
yes
basically just
today.
SWAT.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's modifications on SWAT modes. Or yeah, it's like Tactical Slayer or something like that. Which is like, this is it? This is what we have 2
yeah,
months into the game, like 2 and almost 2.5 months into the game's launch, and this is it?
yeah.
Like,
Again, I'm looking under the scope of, this is a AAA flagship title, and you also labeled this a live service game. This this is a very dead live service game. if
right, I don't
if
know
you
what's going on here,
if
I get, yeah, like, I get, one of the things that I'm gonna quote out of this blog post is that they claim that, they are focusing on team health. They have to move slower to work faster, which makes me think that there is something terribly wrong with their process for getting things out the door right now. Like,
Mhm.
there's either it's managerial or like a planning sort of a thing. Like, maybe they have like a bad list of priorities or something like that. I mean, you and I both work in an agile environment. We can only guess that they are working in an agile environment because it's software, right?
Yep,
Everybody seems to love agile. It's kind of the thing to go to these days.
yep,
And making sure that your priorities are, adequately defined and prioritized is kind of a huge deal. We've worked in this scenario where when things kind of overlap each other and you start getting competing priorities all the time, how damaging that is to the work at the end of the day.
yep.
And so it's rough to have to, try and, like, I still play Halo Infinite because I like playing ranked, but man, it's getting really hard to want to keep playing this game. I think I'm over 200 hours now into the game, into playing this game, and it's just like, yeah, I can only get so much live fire before I really just want to throw in the towel. And I mean, there's even pros who are talking about how dissatisfied they are with what is happening with this game. You had,
Mhm.
people like Frosty, and I think there was another big pro who was talking about it. I don't think it. No, I can't remember. I remember Frosty being one of the people who was tweeting about it. And there's a few others who are tweeting concerns and disappointment with how the state that this game is in, because there's a lot of us, especially in the competitive side, who want Halo to thrive. We want that Halo esport back, because that was like the great American esport right there before all the other stuff. That was the great American gamer pastime. And to an extent, Europe, but they have like Dota and stuff, so we all kind of suck at Dota. Um but yeah, like it's just so disappointing. Along with that, the multiplayer design lead Andrew Witz has announced that he is leaving. So I don't know if I don't really know what to think about that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just like, they say priority zero is team health, so I don't know if it's like is it like a burnout thing, or is it like um frustration or anything like that. My guess, mainly because I just went through a big bang launch with, the place that I work at too. Um a lot of people tend to quit after major projects have been completed. It's a very, very good time to pack the things up and move on to something else. I'm sure a lot of these people have been working on this project for the entirety of the 5 years they've been trying to get this thing out the door.
6.
6 years they've been trying to get this thing out the door. I'm sure they're ready and willing to just get out of working on Halo for a little while. So I can't
Yeah.
really say that I blame him. And I don't think it's really a cause for concern. I don't know how you feel about that, but
Just not knowing how large, I mean, obviously if he's leading the multiplayer team, I don't it depends on how much that affected the multiplayer and whether I think this is a good or bad. I mean, I think in general, just seeing like if this was the only person leaving, but I mean, the last couple years we've been seeing a lot of high level leads and managers that have left 343, right?
mhm,
Um, and I imagine there's probably a lot of other non-lead and non-manager people that have left. I'll bet you also there's a ton of contractors who had their contracts end at the end of 2021. So, which honestly could feed into why we're getting such slow feedback and changes in the game, is maybe they lost a large bit of their workforce, especially as far as contract at the end of the year. And maybe, as you said, and we've seen it with projects that we've worked on, is once you have a major release, people kind of use that as a milestone to, if they weren't already, start looking and move on to something uh, bigger, better. I guess that's all subjective, but you know, but
yeah,
yeah, I don't know.
yeah, well, I don't know. It's hard to gauge what's going on when people leave the company like that. I mean, yeah. With Blizzard, it's kind of a different story. You could tell that there was an air of frustration. With this, like I said, completing a project is usually a good catalyst for people leaving. That's just kind of the nature
I'm
of the
still
beast.
hoping. I know we kind of got a little, to me probably more a tease of it, but I'm still waiting for a good Jason Schreier article on some of the inner workings and what's going on.
I'm
So
sure he is hard at work right now trying to
hopefully,
get us some
because
information on this.
I am very interested. So, but and yeah, and again, as we've said time and time before, we dunk on these games, but we don't do it out of like we just hate this stuff and we want them to do bad. I think the 30 seconds of fun is there in Halo, but nothing else about the design makes me want to go back and play. I think I
Yes.
touched it 2 times. I think I played 2 nights in February, and only because my cousin said, "Hey man, let's play some Halo." It's I want to play these games. I don't want it to just like I want to play with my friends and my cousin and stuff like that. But I want it to be like me going like I do with Hell Let Loose. I'm just like, hey man, I want to play video games. I'm gonna play Hell Let Loose. I want that to be Halo, or even a Battlefield, right?
Right.
I
I
miss
miss
the old
playing.
style Battlefields, so
Right.
I want these games. I was actually looking forward to 2042 because I kind of really no reason other than I guess you could almost say I took some time off. From the Battlefield franchise. It wasn't because like, oh, I hate it and blah, blah. It's just I just didn't participate in uh Battlefield. What is it? 1 and 5. Got to get that right.
Right.
So it was just like I was looking forward to coming back to a Battlefield, and
Yeah,
and I
me
was
too.
excited for a Halo after 6 years.
Me
Um,
too.
and I want to play these games, but please, damn it, fix the game so that
Right.
I can have fun with them.
Yeah, I would love to get, some semblance of that this game is complete, cuz
Yeah.
both of these games don't feel like they are complete.
Hmm.
And I mean, I'm right there with you too. I mean, I really wanted to play a new Battlefield game so bad, and I was
Hmm.
really excited that they were, taking a next step forward and trying to make like the cool portal mode with like lots of custom game types and all that, and 128 players and all that. And then yeah, they kind of
The
fumble the ball at the goal line.
destruction.
Yeah, like I was really excited about all that.
Yeah. I mean, that was, as much as we talk about Hell Let Loose, Battlefield's a different type of fun. And yeah, that's what I was kind of itching for that, as much as Hell Let Loose for the last almost year now has been scratching essentially that Battlefield itch I've wanted. Battlefield is different enough that I was looking forward to it, and I wanted to just get in there and play.
Same. All right, so I think we've done enough dunking on these two games for an
We'll
episode.
try to hold off for another episode or
Yeah,
two.
we'll try to hold off. Like we got it out of our system. We got an episode coming up, and then we're still working on our book club, which is Beyond Good and Evil. So if you are interested in joining up with if you're interested in talking about the book club, be sure to join us on Discord and
Definitely.
give your suggestion for a future book club. But with that, we're gonna actually wrap up tonight's episode with some information regarding Grand Theft Auto. Unfortunately, not Grand Theft Auto 6, but GTA 5 and GTA Online. So, GTA 5 and GTA Online will be coming to the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 and the new Xbox Series X and S.
Yeah, we gotta find a
Um,
good way to say that.
yeah, the Xbox
Series
Series
is God.
the various Xbox series.
Phil, because I know you listen to this, please just hire me to help you name your next console. God
Mm-hmm.
damn it.
Xbox 720s. All right, so it is going to be coming March 15th. New features include 4K resolution, 60 frames per second, improved textures, HDR, ray tracing, that's Matt's favorite, faster
Yeah.
load times, and immersive 3D audio.
I've been waiting to play GTA 5 until they put ray tracing in,
And
so
now
I've never
you
played it.
can. Wait, you seriously have never played GTA 5?
I played some GTA Online
Oh,
uh,
wow.
with Dan, our audio editor. So,
Oh, man.
but
Yeah,
that's about
GTA
it.
5's got a killer single player.
Yeah.
It's good
No, it was
stuff.
just it joined that pile of games and it just never got around to playing it. So
Got it. All right. With that, they are introducing two modes here. They have Fidelity mode, which is tuned for the highest visual quality and targets 30 FPS. Um, I believe that the PlayStation 5 and Series X will support native 4K with ray tracing enabled. But the Xbox Series S is going to support upscaled 4K resolution. So
yeah.
not true 4K, whatever. I don't even have anything that can play 4K. Performance mode is tuned for the most responsive gameplay and targets 60 frames per second. PlayStation 5 and Series X support upscaled 4K. Series S supports 1080p. So if you want 60 FPS, you get upscaled 4K. If you want 30 FPS, you get true 4K for the Series X and PlayStation 5.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say this. I think this is gonna be our common options moving forward with a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, do you want the visual fidelity to be the best? It'll probably be 30 FPS, but it'll be 4K with ray tracing. Or do you want the buttery smooth goodness of 60 FPS, but it might not be native 4K and may or may not support ray tracing?
Yep.
So,
this will be the first time that GTA Online will be its own standalone product. So if you're really into that and you want to get into some RP servers or something, there you go. Although I don't know if you can do the RP stuff on console. I don't know. Tweet at us. Let us know if that's actually a thing. I don't really do the GTA Online RP stuff, so hit us up on Discord or let us know. PS5 will be able to download and keep for free the first 3 months after launch, so you get to try it out for a little while. Xbox One and PlayStation 4 owners will be able to transfer their story saves. So,
So, gonna clarify that 3 months thing. I noticed the way I wrote the note here, it's kind of a little confusing. This was also mentioned, I think, last fall when they actually announced this. But PS5 owners, so for the 3 months after GTA Online launch, PS5 owners can get it for free.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you will get to keep it. So it's not one of those you only get to keep it for 3 months. As
No,
long as you claim it in that 3 months, you own it.
wow,
So,
that's pretty cool.
yeah, pretty exciting stuff there.
Well, then there you have it. So if you want probably what the 6th edition of GTA
Yeah,
5, uh have at it. March 15th is your day.
there you go. Yep.
Yes.
No,
All
I'm
right.
excited. Maybe I'll actually get around to playing it.
Yeah, if you want to play GTA Online, let me know. Although I play it on PC.
Also,
So.
I want to take a moment. I actually want to dunk on something here. I was sitting here thinking about this.
Uh-oh.
Rich, you're going to appreciate this a lot.
I
And I,
maybe.
and and I do this out of fun. I'm not
Okay.
actually starting to start a war here. Isn't it funny that I know they're not next gen anymore? They're the current gen, but essentially the next gen was touted as this amazing 4K ray tracing, 60 FPS, right?
Uh-huh.
But neither of the top ones can. Again, we're going to put a little asterisk here too, because I know there are some games that are an exception. But these super awesome next gen consoles that can compete with PC can't do all of those at once.
Nope.
But good old PC gaming, assuming you have the right graphics card.
Which would you like, 60 frames a second or 4K? Like true 4K.
Yep.
And if
But
you have a Series S, screw you. You get nothing. You
but
lose. You get nothing.
as a PC gamer, we can say I want everything.
I get everything as long as I have enough money and
Yeah.
the ability to find a graphics card that's capable of doing that.
Again, I
Can't
only do
even
this
buy
out of
that.
fun. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to start a console versus PC war because we all know the PCs. But oh, I did it again.
Yep. Hey, at least you're saying the right thing.
Yeah.
That is the right opinion.
I love consoles, so and PC, but so nothing but love from me. But a good old fashioned fun too, with
Well,
poking fun at both of them. So
that was a quality dunk. Thank you, Matt.
I like it.
So we're going to close that out. That is going to end the episode for this week. Thank you all so much for tuning in and listening to the Campfire Gaming Podcast. We very much appreciate it. And we would very much appreciate if you subscribe, of course. Be sure to give a thumbs up if you're coming from YouTube. And be sure to visit our website, campfiregamingpodcast.com. Look at all of our previous episodes, our ever-growing larger catalog of content that we have for you. Also, be sure to join us on Discord. We'd love to chat with you, do book games. You know, we talked a lot about Hell Let Loose tonight, and we would love to play that with you as well. And with that, close it out for the night. We'll see you next time around the campfire.